He was clearly in a foul mood from the moment he arrived. "Hey, I'm here. You got a lot of guts calling me all this way, you know." "Yeah, really. But can you say that to Diablo, please, not me?" He plopped down roughly on his chair. He had been taken to our more luxurious reception room in the guest house to avoid offending him any further, but maybe that was premature of me. This was a house that we only opened up to the chosen few, royalty, nobility, that sort of thing. If he started taking his frustrations out on our furnishings, we'd be eating a lot of money in damages. The decor in here was selected by Mjamal, who always had a good eye for that kind of thing. He imported fixtures from all over the world, and some of them were as artistic as they were valuable. It all matched with my tastes as well, so most of the pieces were more quietly elegant than I'm rich type fancy. That Japanese sense of wabi-sabi, or quiet simple refinement. Mjamal did a great job sticking to that theme, I think. Rigard and his kin were still too inexperienced to reach this level of good taste. They never got to interact with artwork before, so understanding the quality of things would take them some more time. But Rigard also said it's so relaxing, being in here when he paid it a visit, so maybe we have matching tastes, after all. Regardless, if Guy starts getting violent, I'll deal with it then. We didn't have anywhere else suitable enough for entertaining him, so maybe at least a little damage was inevitable. There was no way I'd do something as suicidal as entertain the world's strongest demon lord in a bare-bones waiting room. His chair was creaking ominously already. It was another first-rate piece of furniture, carved from fragrant wood. A soft sofa is always nice, but there's nothing like a good wooden chair that can adjust itself to virtually any body type. It makes you feel like you're surrounded by lush, inviting force, at peace with nature. If he broke it, I'd have him pay for it, but now I was doubly glad I dismissed everybody else from the meeting. The Imperial group was back on floor 70 for the time being, Gabble escorting them down. He'd be watching over them while Adalman was absent. So he was busy arranging for Masayuki's security, while Rigard was touching base with the relevant authorities to ensure the city was running fine while quarantined in the labyrinth. Cajun, after conferring with Vester, was having him inform King Gazel of our meeting and its results. I didn't want to hide anything from him, so we'd be in touch later. Ghidorah, meanwhile, was reaching out to Yuki, reasoning that he needed to know about the current situation, as they worked out a future course of action. Gopta and Takura were on standby in a nearby room, along with the 3 demonesses, just in case something flared up. It'd be safer to keep them out of Guy's sight, because who knows what would happen if you mix them all together, so that was what I decided to do. So there were 4 of us in the reception room: Diablo, the original perpetrator, Benimaru, Shion, and me. Guy had brought along 3 women of his own. One, seated next to him, had a face that reminded me of Milm's. Her white hair possessed a brilliant sheen, her eyes a deep blue that seemed to absorb anyone who gazed into them. She was surprisingly beautiful, but depending on how you looked at her, she could also be mistaken for a child. It was strange, and given how she casually sat next to Guy, they must have been on equal footing, and I knew only a small number of people like that. If I had to guess. "This is the first time you met, isn't it? Lem introduce you, Rimuru. This is Velzard, Valdor's elder sister. The Ice Dragon is probably a more suitable name for her, but either way, don't forget it. A pleasure to meet you, Sir Rimuru. I am Velzard. Perhaps you've heard the name Velzard the Ice Dragon before. I knew you were taking care of my brother for me, so I've been meaning to say hello to you." Well, I was right. She was Valdor's sister, one of the 4 all-powerful true dragons, Velzard the Ice Dragon, in the flesh. That graceful bow to me was so beautiful. Just seeing her sit so gracefully on her chair was a sight to behold. She seemed to enjoy the scent of the wood, too. But as elegant as her smile was, it still sent a cold sweat running down my back. Hanging out with Valdora all the time made me think I was used to handling true dragons, but this lady was just bad news. The danger was just palpable. It would have been more appropriate to call her being from another dimension. Valdora had only recently grown capable of controlling his aura with decent precision. I figured he had it down perfectly, but seeing Velzard before me, I understood just how naive I was. This woman made aura control look incredibly natural. I couldn't sense any of it at all, which showed just how well she could handle it. If she didn't introduce herself as such, I never would have known she was a true dragon. In fact, I may have even thought she was a normal human being. There was no hiding that beauty and dominance, though, so I never would have looked down on her. "Ah, hello. My name is Rimuru, and maybe I don't look it, but I'm demon lording it up around here. Your brother's been a ton of help to me. Why do I always sound like such a putz whenever I introduce myself to people? And why does Raphael always climb up at times like these?" It was so absurd, I thought, but I still tried to keep smiling. "Aw, how humble of you. There's no need to be so protective of him." Velzard let out a pleasant, high-pitched laugh. As soon as she did, her mature atmosphere dissipated, and the impression she made resembled a cute little girl's. Honestly, she looks like she's high school age, and no older she really is related to Milne. Thankfully, that smile did a lot to ease the heavy atmosphere. Then we all introduced each other. The other two women in Guy's entourage were Miseri the original green, whom I met before, and Rain the original blue, whom I hadn't. They were in their dark maid uniforms as usual, standing behind Guy with flawless posture. They were the same rank of demon as Diablo, but looking at the prudent step back they took, it sure didn't seem that way. They were primals, though, the strongest of demons and nothing a mere demon peer could compare to. Better be careful I don't exhibit any bad manners around them, I thought as I carefully wrapped up the intros. Benimaru, seated next to me, was the picture of politeness, but I was nervous through Sean's entire greeting. With Diablo, I felt like someone trying to dismantle a live bomb. I wondered why I decided to take this group in, but it was too late to do anything about it. Once we were all seated, I asked Shuna, who guided everyone in here, to make some tea for us. She did so without any sign of agitation, a seasoned pro when it came to hospitality. And not just her, all our servants were doing their jobs as usual, as if it didn't matter who they were serving. Real professionals, all of them, and I'm sure I was watching Vester's strict training bear fruit here. After taking a sip of Shuna's tea, I got down to business. So the reason I invited you here is because I wanted to ask you something, Guy. Oh? So the Empire invaded my country, and I defeated them and stuff. I was thinking about staging an invasion of my own, but then I heard the Empire has Velgrinder, Velzard's younger sister, I suppose. And judging from everything else I've heard, it sounds like there's some manner of connection between you and the Empire as well. Huh. Smart of you to notice. Guy flashed me an excited grin. I had the worst feeling about all this. I really wish I didn't have to delve any deeper, but things weren't gonna work out that way. So you wanted to interfere with the Empire's attempts at powering up their army, right? That's why you let Yuki live, too, I bet. I'm sure you didn't want the Western nations to fall, but it wasn't only that, yes. You called it a game, but who are you playing this game with? I pretended that this was just casual curiosity on my part. In reality, though, a lot hinged on this. If the Empire boasted both Velgrind and some other threat equal to her, I needed to know about it. If we attacked while still oblivious to this, there was an excellent chance some of my friends would have died. So I asked him, my eyes staring right into Guy's. Ha ha ha. Good. If you picked up on that much, why don't I tell you the whole thing? Nice to see Guy wasn't interested in lording it over me here. Scary, too, in a way. I listened on. To tell the truth, I have a bet going with a certain guy I know. This guy has a habit of going on about these crazy ideals of his, and I want to present him with a little reality check. So we agreed that we'd never directly fight each other, but to use only the pieces we have on hand. In other words, they'd be letting other people do the fighting and whoever defeated all their opponents' pawns first wins. What kind of pieces are these? I already had my hunches about this, actually. Heh. There you guys. Yeah. Thought so. I kinda wish she'd stop treating me as his game piece, but no point complaining about that here. Let's just work through this and get as much useful information as we can. So is the person you're playing in this game the Imperial Emperor? I was sure of it already but still felt I should check just in case. Guy had Velzard at his side, so it followed that the person with Velgrind at their side was Guy's opponent. That may not necessarily have been the Emperor, though, so I wanted Guy to confirm it for me. You got it. Emperor Ludor is an admitted rival of mine. He had no intention of hiding it. In fact, he sounded happy to tell me. And if rival is the word he chose, should I assume Ludor is just as strong as Guy? I really can't win against him, can I? And there's nothing I hate more than playing a game where I've got no apparent path to victory. If I could say something. As I held my head in my hands, Benimaru was bold enough to speak up in Guy's presence. Sure. Then, I'd like to ask what are the conditions for victory in this game? Do we have to defeat Emperor Ludor, or do we just have to subdue all his pieces? I'd like to have more exact guidance. Ah yes, that is important. I assumed beating Ludor was my only way out, but if beating his pawns, in other words, neutralizing the Empire's force was all that mattered, I like my chances a lot more. We'd still have a lot of nasty dudes to fight, but that'd still be tangling with someone on Guy's level. Kahahaha. Perhaps eliminating Guy would be another way to win the... Are you that stupid? Guy and I shouted in unison. Honestly, Diablo just exhausts me. He must have exhausted Guy as well, because we wound up giving each other knowing looks. I didn't expect to establish a rapport with him this way, so thanks Diablo. I seriously can't have you offending him right now, so my rating of you just plummeted straight for the basement, but thanks. So I said after advising Diablo to shut up for a while, how would you answer Benimaru's question, Guy? Guy, instead of answering, looked straight at me. The moment his lips curled upward into a grin, my sense of danger went into overdrive. Rimuru. Oh, man. I got the worst premonition right then. In fact, it was beyond a premonition. Now I understood when Jalma looked a little confused the first few times I called him Molly. I'm sure I'm making the same face right now. You know, I have a favor I'd like to ask of you. No. Well, hear me out. I wish you'd hear me out first. But this is Guy we're talking about. It'd never be smart to anger someone with this much potential for violence, so I had no choice but to listen on. Jamal always heeded my requests, no matter how confused he looked about them, but I had absolutely no intention of honoring Geese. Basically, I want you to stop that bastard Lador. I'm not saying you have to defeat him, but just do something about all his pieces and help me win this, okay? He couldn't have looked eviler if he tried. Then he stood up and walked behind me, rubbing my shoulders as he continued. You'll do that for me, won't you? He started applying more force. This is coercion, isn't it? If I say yes, what's in it for me? If this was one of those offers I couldn't refuse, I at least wanted to negotiate a better deal. Maybe this was suicidal against someone like Guy, but I decided to work him as much as I could. You know that the world balance I've been maintaining is now thoroughly wrecked because of you, right? What do you think about that? Sorry. In an instant, I was completely defeated. I was trying my best to build a new balance right now, but I'm certain that it was me who took most of the power from Guy's side. To put it more bluntly, bringing Tensura and the other demonesses under my wing was a bad idea. If I turned down Guy's requests at this point, I was opening myself up to the risk of being seen as an enemy. So my hands thoroughly tied, I gave up and accepted the offer.